Hola chicos y chicas, today we're gonna talk about traveling to Mexico during COVID-19. We're gonna talk about why I chose Mexico and the whole experience I had getting into the country. I'm gonna point out things that I believe you need to be aware of if you wanna travel to Mexico. And I'm also going to give you some additional tips that you should definitely pay attention to. So let's get started. First of all, why did I choose Mexico and not Costa Rica, not the Dominican Republic, not Colombia? Well, to make a long story short, I'd say I chose Mexico because of its liberal COVID policies. Okay, so you can go to Mexico right now. You don't need a PCR test. You don't need to be vaccinated. No testing upon arrival, no quarantine upon arrival. If you guys have been watching my videos, then you're well aware of the attraction that Mexico offers foreigners at the moment. And this can really be confirmed as soon as you're on the plane, because there are no seats available, and we're going to talk about this in a moment here. And by the way, if you've been watching my videos, you can definitely tell that I am in a different environment right now. I'm in a different apartment. I'm in Cancun, Mexico. And yeah, so those are the main reasons why I chose Mexico. And not only me, it's not only me, right? It's everybody else too. It's why people go to Mexico. It's pretty simple. All right, let's have a look at the next thing here, the preparation, because as you guys know, traveling during COVID can be draining. Can take a lot of time. Certainly it's going to suck a lot of your energy because it's gotten more stressful. You have to wear a mask on the plane, at airports. There's really no way of getting around that. However, one of the great things about going to Mexico, I didn't have to worry 72 hours before departure that, okay, I need to get a COVID test done before I can even board the plane. Nothing like that. The only thing that was required was that I filled out a health form. And there are basically two options. The health form, there's usually a link in the email that you get from your airline. When you click on that link, you can fill out the health form electronically, and guess what? You get a code. And with that code, you can then get into Mexico. Now that's one option, right? You can fill it out prior to getting on the plane, but you can also do it on the plane. I flew to Mexico in Air Europa, and before you get on the plane, typically you need to show the health form that you filled out electronically. However, on this specific flight, I was not required to show anything. I was kind of asked by the counter assistant, but I told her I don't have it yet because my internet didn't work when I was checking in. And then, she told me, well, it's not a big deal because you can also fill it out while you're on the plane. They're going to give you the physical form. I thought that's great, so you can do it just on the plane. That's fine. So I basically flew from Tenerife to Madrid. I had a layover. I think it was like a 4 or 5 hour layover. And then, I flew from Madrid to Cancun. So it was a direct flight with Air Europa, which was pretty cool, right? So they handed out these forms on the plane, and that was really the only requirement at this point. And also, of course, the immigration form, right? Which they also handed out on the plane. So if you're traveling to Mexico, I definitely recommend, if possible, of course, if they have enough forms, definitely fill out the form on the plane, because when you arrive, it's pretty hectic, and there's not a lot of space, and it's just not so convenient. Unfortunately, I was seated at the back of the plane, and there were no forms left for me, unfortunately. And I asked them many times, and I was kind of frustrated because it didn't have enough forms. So I ended up doing it at Cancun Airport anyway. Another thing that I almost forgot to mention is I was asked by my airline to purchase a return ticket, okay? Because before I booked, I called in to make sure that a one-way ticket was going to be fine, because I didn't want to book the return ticket yet because I didn't know how long I was going to stay. However, when I called in, they told me you do need to have a return ticket, otherwise you are not going to be allowed to board the plane. Okay, then I ended up booking it anyway, so my return flight is, I think, on May 13th or May 14th, something like that, so I have like 6 months. And then, when I was at the airport, it is definitely a requirement. So make sure you have that in place. You don't necessarily need a return ticket. If you have an onward ticket, that'll be fine too. So if you want to book a cancelable ticket to, I don't know, maybe Guatemala or Puerto Rico or the Dominican, if you have other plans, then you can do that. However, not having a return ticket could be an issue. Probably not so much with immigration when you arrive, but more so with the airline. Let's talk about the experience on the plane, because that was actually quite interesting. As you can guess, the people that are traveling to Mexico during the COVID-19 pandemic are people that are looking for a location that is restriction-free. Unsurprisingly, I met a girl, she was seated to my right, and she's doing crypto, and we ended up talking for hours and hours and hours, and it was like an 11-hour flight, and definitely we talked for, I would say, 6 to 8 hours. So it was really cool having a mate right next to me that shares my perspective, and we talked about the whole pandemic, we talked about going to Mexico, we talked about crypto. We had so much in common, it was just fun. And that's probably what you should or can expect when traveling to Mexico. Doesn't matter where you're coming from, it doesn't matter, but I definitely noticed that. One of the things when traveling on an airplane these days, it's definitely annoying, but you kind of have to fall in line or you're going to have a lot of problems. You need to wear your mask on the plane. You really need to. There's no other way. If you just put it on a little bit, the stewardess is going to come to you and going to tell you, yeah, you should put it up. And but people are still eating. When you're eating on the plane, right? During we had like a late lunch, and there was actually no dinner served, which was very disappointing, and that's why I don't recommend Air Europa at all. On a long distance flight, not to receive 2 meals is kind of ridiculous, and I actually still need to complain about that. But still, they're pretty strict with the mask mandate on the plane. But the people that were actually on the plane did not care as much, and that's probably why they're heading to Mexico, right? Another important point that I wanted to cover in this video is what happened when I arrived in Cancun. So I arrived and my suitcases were disinfected. I could tell because there was some liquid substance on them, and they didn't smell too good. It smelled very chemical, but they have to do what they have to do. That was fine. When you arrived, as soon as you got out of the airplane at the gate, they were kind of checking the health forms, the electronic ones. I mean, I personally was not asked, but I saw people that were asked by airport staff. So they do ask, but maybe not everyone. I don't know what criteria they're looking at, but I personally was not asked for my health form. Then, when I was getting to the immigration, I had to fill out the arrival form, my name, my date of birth, address, where I'm going to stay, flight number, airline, all the info that you would typically fill out when you go to Asia, Vietnam, Thailand. It's very similar. And I filled that out and took a couple minutes, obviously. Then when it was my turn, I handed in that card that I had just filled out, and they asked me how long I was going to stay. And guess what I said? I said I'm going to stay for 2 months, because I know they only issue 15 days and 180 days. So if I had said, okay, I'm going to stay for a couple weeks, maybe I would have only gotten 15 days, which would not have been cool, right? Because it's really limiting yourself. But I've talked to a lot of people before coming to Mexico, and they told me that right now they're only issuing 15 days and 180 days. I've heard from a bunch of people that have problems getting into the country because they have stayed for many months this year. They came back, they just did like a very short trip back home. They went to the States, they went to Canada, and some of them did border runs, blah, blah, blah. And when they came back into Mexico, they were not given 180 days on their tourist visa, and that's a bit problematic. So what Mexico is trying to do right now is Mexico is trying to limit the people that come to the country and live on a tourist visa, right? They want you to get permanent residency and temporary residency, obviously, right? So if you don't have that and you had multiple extended stays in Mexico over the past, I'd say 6 to 24 months, it could be problematic upon your return, because they're looking at it more and more, especially right now during COVID, because so many people can't go to Asia. Asia is pretty closed. Nobody wants to go through the hassle to get into Thailand. Maybe 10 out of 100 people are willing to put themselves through the process. However, a lot of people that I know, they're really unwilling to go for this, and you can't really blame them. So a lot of these people are not going to Mexico. Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, and obviously Colombia are options as well. Mexico is pretty appealing because it is a very diverse country, right? You have the coast, you have the west coast, you have the Caribbean side, you have central Mexico, you have a lot of culture, really, really great places and many great places that you can visit in the country. So no doubt why people want to go to Mexico, and also obviously it's not that strict in terms of COVID. Makes perfect sense. So if you want to travel to Mexico, yeah, you don't need COVID insurance, no health insurance, you don't need any PCR test, nothing, no vaccine, you don't need anything like that. And once you're here, from what I have noticed, I mean, I've gone out to grocery stores and you do need to wear a mask indoors. Not a big deal, I guess. It's really only for a couple of minutes. Outdoors, nobody wears a mask. I mean, I wouldn't say nobody, but very few people do. Overall, it was not too difficult to get into Mexico. It was a little bit tough for me because I'm traveling with a dog. And so before the flight, I had to arrange his health certificate. I had to get internal, external parasite treatment done. The rabies shot, he already got it like 2 months ago. And then when I arrived, that actually delayed my exit from the airport even more, was that, you know, they took probably 30 to 40 minutes to process his papers. I showed the health certificate and, you know, they took a look at everything and they said everything was fine, but they had to manually input everything before they allowed me to go. And I was there with a guy and he entered everything and we were about to be done. And then he said, oh no, the system just crashed and we have to start all over again. And you know, they kind of delayed it. So if you're traveling with a pet to Mexico, definitely get ready for that. You cannot take whatever you have, a dog or a cat, you cannot take your cat or dog out of the case, you know, whatever you have, the pet bag, until custom cleared it. And then you're free, right? But if not, you can't really do that. I didn't know that. A tip that I wanted to give you, which is probably going to save your life, depending on your history with Mexico. But what I really want for you is to have a hassle-free admission. And I don't know how long you want to stay in Mexico. There's a lot of people that just want to come in for a couple of weeks, but then there's people that want to stay for a couple months or even the whole 180 days. If you want to stay for 6 months, then what I highly recommend you do is print out your bank statements, you know, maybe from the past, I would say 3 to 6 months. If you have a decent bank balance, you gotta have at least, I think, 5 figures. If you have anything less than that, could be problematic, but make sure you have that printed. And also maybe have accommodation reservation. That's gonna help too, because if you don't have anything, any proof of accommodation, no proof of financials, maybe you only going to be given 15 days, and sure, you don't want that. So make sure you have that. That's a huge tip, okay? And another thing, another process that could work very well, it's going to require a little bit more time before you leave for Mexico, would be to get the 6-month tourist visa at the embassy in your country. So wherever you're located, go to the Mexican embassy there and just ask for 180 days. Now, they all obviously want to know proof of accommodation. They want to know probably how much money you have. They want to know where you're going to stay and some other things too. Maybe you also need to prove health insurance. I don't know that. But this would be another option. Could be one of the safest bets if you had prolonged stays in Mexico in the past. Maybe try and do that. You know, you want to be on the safe side. You don't want to come here, only be given a 15 days and then have to return back home. That would suck. You don't want that. I'm not saying that you're not going to be given 180 days. I'm just telling you to take precautions. You know, be prepared. Be prepared. Bring your bank statements, proof of accommodation, and you can just get a cancelable accommodation at a hotel or an apartment. And so we have at least some proof. You know, if they see, okay, he already booked for 5 months. Okay, we don't want to give him 15 days right now. You are contributing to the economy. You are contributing to the tourism sector, you know. But if you don't have anything, it looks kind of fishy, you know. So make sure you have everything in place before you come to Mexico. Are you traveling to Mexico this winter? Have you been to Mexico over the past 12 months? If so, what was the experience? Leave a comment below and let us know. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm uploading new videos on digital nomad locations, travel updates, and visas several times a week right now. Before I let you go, I got 3 recommendations for you. Recommendation 1, I wrote a completely free ebook on how you can retain a life of freedom during challenging times, meaning during the times we're in right now. Again, this is completely free, and if you want to grab yourself a copy of this free ebook, then all you need to do is click on the link below the video. Recommendation 2, I shot a video on countries with easy residence permits. These are places that you can visit and get residency with little financial investment required. Now, if you want to watch this video, click on the link right here. And recommendation 3, which is to watch another video of mine, the cheapest and safest countries to live in the world. Check out this video now. Click right here. Thank you for watching.